So let's go back to the top. So yes, you can pass an array as a parameter to a function. Now, there's a couple of weird little caveats that we have to think about. So the first one is, remember when we talked about passing parameters to arrays, we always like to make a copy of the parameter so that in your main program, it's safe and the function gets a copy of the parameter and you can do whatever you want with it and I don't care because the original one is safe. So here's the thing. Wait a minute, an array is like a really large construct. I could have like hundreds of elements in my array. So if I make a copy of that, now I have two versions of this really large thing, which is taking up a whole bunch of space. So there's two sort of camps. One camp is, yes, still do that. That's a good thing to do. I know it takes up a lot of memory, but it's still safe. Do that. The other camp is, ooh, memory is super expensive. We don't have a lot. You can't be doing things like that. So instead of passing and making a copy of the array, what we're going to do is we're going to pass a reference to where the array actually exists in memory, and you can go and look at anything you want. Problem is, the person that gets this reference, they can not only look at what we have, they can change the values. Now, in certain circumstances, that might be useful. You might want to change the values. Most of the time, you don't want the values changing underneath you. That's a really bad idea. So you have to be careful. So depending on how the person designed the language, it might be still make a copy, or it might be, nope, we're not making a copy, we're just passing a reference. Okay? So you have to understand how your particular programming language deals with this problem. And we're going to talk about it a little more later on. Okay? So the next thing is, okay, we're allowed to pass a parameter in as an array. In Python, it would look something like this. Now, once again, remember Python, these things are called type hints. It's just a hint. It's actually for your IDE. Python could care less what the heck you stick here. It's garbage to it, just like this thing is garbage. Okay? That's just Python though. Most programming languages aren't like that. So here is our type hint, and look, it actually says it's a list of integers. Okay? And we'll see later on, to make this thing show up, you actually have to do like an import statement, but we'll get there in a minute. Okay? So this is an array of numbers. Okay? So that's how you would pass an array of numbers into Python, and you're not getting an array back, you're just getting a single integer. So clearly, this function is taking all the numbers in the array and adding them up because that's what the function is called. And you'll notice in Python, an array is passed by reference to the function. So this function, if it chose to, could actually change those real values, which is kind of sketchy, but be careful and do whatever you're supposed to do so you don't mess things up. Okay? So that's how we would accept an array. How would we pass an array? Well, this is an array, and you just pass it, and it comes up here. Okay? So in this program, we're going to randomly generate a list of numbers, and then we're going to pass it to our function. The function is going to grab it, and it's going to add up all the numbers. That's how it works. Okay? Now, if you're another kind of programmer, if you're a C, this is what's being passed back. It's an integer. This is the name of my function. The thing that's being passed up is integers, and they are an array. Notice there's no number in there. When we declare the array in C, normally you say like there's 10 elements or there's 700 or whatever there is. Okay? But the function can't have that because remember, functions are supposed to be reusable and portable. So just because one person happens to pass 10 numbers to the array, it doesn't mean somebody else might pass 10,000 numbers to the array, to the function through the array. So in C, the declaration accepts the array and it can understand how many elements there are. Once again, because in C, it's actually accepting a pointer. It's not recreating the array. It's just passing a reference to where it is. So it doesn't need to know how many there are. It just needs to know that it is an array and this is actually the reference to it. Okay? So in Python, what would our program look like? So remember I said to get this little type hint, you need to have something else. So in Python, that's what you need to have. Okay? And this is just, typing is an import statement that lets you figure out what types different variables are in Python, and we're importing the one for lists so that we can actually put this type hint here. Okay? So in my main program, I create an array, and then I'm just going to randomly generate a number. I'm going to generate 10 of them in a loop, and I'm going to append them to this array, and then I'm going to pass it to my function. So now this is an array. Okay, that's my array. It will hop up, and it will be accepted in here. Okay, so I'm just going to put a breakpoint right there. I'm going to try to debug my program in Python so that we can see this array. So it's already generated them. See, there's all my values already all there, so there should be 10 of them. There's 10 of them. Okay, now it's going to go to my function and it's going to pass this array up. Let's get rid of the call stack so I can make this bigger. There we go. And you can see all my values there, 0 through 9, and it knows that there's 10 of them. Okay, so we're going to step forward. Here we are now inside the function, and this variable now represents all those numbers. Okay, and they're exactly the same. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to loop around and I'm just going to add them up. So array number at index 0 should be the first one. There it is, 42, which it is. So it's just going to add it to total. And then it's going to come back and it's going to take the second one, which is now 96, and it's going to add it to 42. There we go. And it's just going to loop around and do that over and over again. Okay? So I'm just going to step forward. There we go. So now total has the sum of all my numbers, and it's going to pass this back, my 706, and it's going to pass it back, and it's going to shove it into sum. And there it is. Okay? So absolutely, just because it's an array, we can still absolutely pass it into a function as a parameter. Everything works just like it does. The only thing you got to be careful of is the function actually accepts a reference to the array. So you, if you want, in your function up here, you could have changed those values. Okay? Once again, be careful. Normally we wouldn't want that.